Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Falmouth in Cornwall once again, which is of course home to Verdant Brewing Company, and we're going to have a taste of another one of their IPAs today. So this one is another can that has the kind of space theme on it, which I do quite like, being an astrophysicist by trade, and this beer is called The Planets Don't Twinkle. So it's an IPA at 7.2%, single hopped with Chinook, so I think this one is going to be a bit of a kind of bitter bomb if you like. I did very recently film a review for Unlike Stars, but I was an idiot and lost the file. It was yet another one of these beers that had the kind of space theme on the label, which I thought was really cool, and it was one of the best IPAs I've actually reviewed from Verdant, so I'm a bit annoyed at myself for losing that file. I need to see if I can recover it, but that was a lovely beer. Hopefully this one kind of follows in that same light, but I'm guessing there's somebody at Verdant who kind of loves space porn a little bit, because the pictures on these are very, very nice, of course. But yeah, certainly looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, a link to my other reviews that I've done from Verdant Brewing before. No doubt there will be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes about Verdant quickly then. So as I've told you before, Verdant Brewing are based in Falmouth in Cornwall, and they were founded back in 2014 by Adam Robertson and James Heffron, who were later joined by Rich. So Adam was a designer by trade, James had been a home brewer for a number of years, and Rich was one of the electricians who actually helped them build up their brewery premises, and he later joined the company as a partner. But they ordered their brewing equipment back in 2014, and then they started brewing their beers early on in 2015, but they brew 3 times per week. This gives them a capacity of around 6,000 pints of beer per week, but initially they really struggled to actually get their beers recognised in Cornwall, even though they were a hit in other places like Manchester and Leeds, where, you know, craft beer is a lot better known. But this was mainly because of the Cornish ale culture, and as I've told you before, the Cornish ales is something that I've really kind of neglected on the channel a little bit. I really do need to try some of these traditional Cornish beers, because there is a really kind of ingrained ale culture down there, and supposedly from what I've heard the beers are pretty nice. But these guys were brewing the kind of new wave American styles against the whole kind of old real ale culture, if you like. So a really kind of interesting company, this one. They're probably one of the best known or most recognisable English craft brews, or most lauded English craft breweries in terms of their IPAs these days. I've had some really, really good stuff from them. I think the last one I filmed was Even Sharks Need Water, which was one of their early ones, and even that was the first New England IPA that they produced, and it was really just excellent at the time. So these guys, if you're a big fan of IPAs and hazy IPAs and stuff, then Verdant Brewing Company are definitely one of the English craft breweries that you want to check out. But as always, the brewery website's in the description below, along with the Facebook page, and you can keep up to date with all the latest goings on. These guys are quite a prolific brewery, so if you follow them on social media, you should be able to keep up to date with everything that they're doing. But very prolific, and you know, their beers do tend to be very, very good quality. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. There you can see The Planets Don't Twinkle, the Chinook single hop IPA. That is one thing I should point out in terms of in terms of physics, sorry, not in terms of IPAs. When it comes to actually doing spectroscopy, this was my area of expertise. I really love spectroscopy. You know, planets do not twinkle. They are just pretty much, you know, little specks of light that kind of wobble a little bit, if you like. But when it comes to stars, you know, obviously the luminosity changes quite a lot because of the, you know, things moving in front of the star and stuff like that. You can actually use the dip method and stuff in terms of the light that a star gives out to detect planets and things, and then radial velocity methods and stuff to actually calculate the mass of the planet and all of this kind of thing. But yeah, I do quite like that title, that, because planets don't actually twinkle. But yeah, yeah, 7.2% IPA. This one, it tells you on the back, the malt base in this beer is Golden Promise, Extra Pale Ale, wheat, oats and flaked wheat. This hop, of course, is single Chinook, like they said, and it's London Ale Yeast number 3. And it says on the back here, yeah, so unlike stars, planets don't twinkle. Stars are so distant that they appear as pinpoints of light in the night sky. Our Milky Way galaxy is home to at least 100 billion alien planets and possibly more. This galaxy is located 3.8 billion light years away, and there's not the slightest chance of observing these planets directly, not even with the best telescope that one can imagine. But yeah, that's the one thing I should say about these images actually. Usually they are colorized a little bit, because your images in space, you know, they wouldn't look like that. Space doesn't look like that. They do kind of colorize the images a little bit to make them look pretty. I do have my Unlike Stars can up here, just let you have a little look at this one as well. So this is the one that I filmed but then lost the file for. I was quite gutted about that. But yeah, so yeah, nicely presented, look, nice little label on this one. I do like these kind of space porn pictures, even though you do know they are, you know, colorized a little bit, but I do like these, and it is cool to see that, you know, someone is appreciating my area of expertise, if you like. I couldn't get my finger under that. But yeah, let's get it out then, and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm really looking forward to this one. I don't think I've ever had a single hopped Chinook beer. Chinook, from what I always remember, is a bit of a beast, you know. It's a big resinous grapefruity hop, this one, so it should be absolutely lovely. I nearly lost that beer there. Heart was racing. Don't know how I did that. But yeah, as you can see, this beer's poured a really nice, bright, orangey yellow colour. You know, it just looks like fruit juice pretty much. There's a solid half finger of a frothy white head on this one. You can see if I put my fingers behind the glass, it is pretty much completely hazy. And you can see one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, quite a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head. Incidentally, a kind of half finger head just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer, right enough. But you know, pretty much as you would expect from an IPA. I can't believe I almost lost my second space themed IPA from Verdant. That would have actually been a disaster there. But you know, just my luck, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, it looks pretty much as you would expect, 7.2% this beer. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then, and just see how we get on. Ooh, right. You can smell the pine resins on that beer right away. It's just so big. It's just got such a big kind of kick to it in the aroma. That's what I was saying, the Chinook hop, from what I remember, I mean, the Chinook was one of the earlier hops that I came across when I started doing all these beer videos. The Chinook is just an absolute monster, you know. It's pine resins, it's got a really dark grapefruit, and you know, it's almost got a little bit of a spicy kind of floral aromatic thing to it. I do expect, my prediction for this beer is that it's very straight up. It's just a big kind of bitter bomb with a really nice malt base. That's what I'm expecting from this one. But yeah, pine resins in there, a little bit of floral aromaticity. There's a nice juicy fruity note to it. You can smell the grapefruits coming out of this, but the malt base, I think, is coming out quite sweetly in this. You can really smell that nice kind of creamy oaty note to this beer. There's definitely a bit of a biscuit. I want to say there's almost a bit of a kind of caramelly note to this beer, but the oaty creaminess and the wheaty qualities are really coming out of this beer. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you get stuck in. But for me, the aroma on this one is pretty straight up, but I do like it how the malt base is a little bit more accented compared to some of the other New England IPAs that you're going to come across. The malt base in this one is a little bit more accented than some of the other ones. But yeah, it does smell really quite nice. Yeah. Definitely more. This one's definitely got a bit more of a malt basey quality, but you can really smell that piney resinous quality to this beer. But let's have a taste of this one then. This one is the Planets Don't Twinkle, a 7.2% single hopped Chinook IPA from Verdant Brewing Company down in Falmouth in Cornwall, and I'm very grateful that I didn't lose the beer when I kicked the kind of towel thing. But let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, that's really quite interesting actually. Yeah, this beer, it's definitely interesting, this one. you know, for me, the way that the Chinook flavours are coming out in this, it's got the pine resins that you expect, but there's almost just a bit of there's a sort of earthiness in the hops in this one that I wasn't quite expecting, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. The malt, we'll start with the malt base first then. So the malt base is pretty much what you'd expect. You've got a little bit of that white bready quality there. That blankets the middle of your palate. On top of that, there's a sort of, there's definitely that kind of oaty sweetness to it. There's a bit of graininess comes out of this beer as you go further and further into the aftertaste as well. If you just go down the middle of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of biscuity sweetness again there as well, which will be the golden promise, I would say. But yeah, it is nice how this one is, it's nice how everything in this one goes together. But I mean, as I say, I've never had a Chinook hop on its own. And it's, I can see with this one, it's quite, I don't know how to describe that. Like, I was expecting this beer just to be an absolute beast in terms of its IBUs and things like that, but it's definitely got a bit more complexity to it than that. I mean, in the back corners of the palate, you've definitely got this earthy note to it, and there's almost a little bit of a kind of herbal, leafy sort of quality to this beer. You can feel that just as you kind of come along the sides of your palate there. It reminds me of pine cones a little bit, which is an odd thing to say, to be honest. Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, let's say, on the hoppy side of the beer, it's earthy in the back corners of the palate, which is what you'd expect. As you come further forward, there's this sort of leafy, herbal kind of thing then at the very front corners of the tongue. That's where you get the kind of strong piney resins, like the really dank floral aromatic quality to this beer. And then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, which is again what you would expect. It's the sides of the palate, it's that sort of herbal, earthy, leafy kind of thing that's really unusual for this beer, I think. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, this. I mean, have a go at it for yourself and see what you think. This beer's kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because it is nice, but it wasn't what I expected at all. So well done to the guys at Verdant for that. In terms of the fruity side of the beer then, behind the front curve of the palate, you've got that nice oily bubble where you get these nice fruity esters, and again, it's pretty much a straight up kind of grapefruit note to this beer, I would say. Yeah, definitely, I mean, just the grapefruit there kind of sits there, and it sort of opens up a little bit. There is a little bit more of a kind of tropical element to this beer as you kind of go further into the aftertaste. The aftertaste, it's a little bit of the biscuity notes that's coming out from the golden promise and things as you go further into the aftertaste. But I mean, overall, this beer, in a way, it is what I was expecting, because it's very straight up in terms of the how it goes. It's not the most complex beer that you're going to get from Verdant. And to be honest, I'm not sure how I feel about the Chinook on its own. Like, it's a really good hop to give you that nice big bitter kick to it, but I think you need something, you know, you need a little bit of Mosaic or a Nelson Sauvin, or, you know, an Amarillo or Citra, Simcoe, Galaxy, you know, you need something like that just to give the beer a bit more complexity. This is definitely a hop that it's kind of like a defensive midfielder, if that makes sense. It does a lot of the work that nobody sees, if you like, but it's a very, very important job. That's the kind of good way to think about the Chinook hop, I think. It's one of these ones that does a great job in the background, but if it's put to the fore, then I'm just not quite sure about it. If it's given the kind of lead role, I'm not quite sure how it would think. It's like taking the defensive midfielder and telling him to go up and play centre forward, you know. But I mean, in terms of the beer itself, it is well done. You wouldn't expect anything less from Verdant. But for me, I think it's just the beer itself, the Chinook hop on its own, I don't think can carry a beer. I think you do need something a little bit, but in fairness, I can see why they would. It's almost a little bit I guess you could say it's a little bit poetic in this way. The Chinook is a hop. Maybe that's what they were going for with this beer a little bit, was the irony. The Chinook hop is one that you find in a lot of beers, but it doesn't quite get the recognition. Maybe that's what Verdant were actually going for with this beer. But I can see, on the basis of trying this beer, I can see why this is normally used as a bittering hop rather than an aroma hop, if you like, because it has that grapefruity quality, and the big piney resins that you would normally get from Chinook is a lovely component to have to your beers. But when you put this in as the lead hop, I just don't think it quite works. It's the leafy and herbal thing for me is just what puts me off a little bit. If it was a straight up kind of pine resin and grapefruit that was coming out of this beer, then that would probably change my mind. But it's just, I'm not a great fan of that herbal kind of leafy quality that's coming out on the sides of the palate in this beer. But the malt base is nice. The flavours do kind of blend together quite well. It's a well done beer basically, but I think this beer could be really nice with another hop added in there just to kind of support the Chinook, if you like. It's an interesting one, this. I'm glad that I got to try it, but I would probably drink it again. I could be tempted to try it on keg and things like that, but I think it is, as I say, it's just lacking a little bit of that complexity, if that makes sense. I think that's probably a good way to kind of sum up this one. But overall, as I say, nice enough beer, nothing particularly wrong with it, but maybe this one just isn't quite to my taste. But I do wonder if that's kind of an intentional thing. As they say, planets don't twinkle. Maybe Chinook is the hop that doesn't quite shine on its own. It needs something else to help bring out the best of it, if that makes sense. Maybe it's a bit of it's one of these kind of poetic thing. I mean, I'm poetically illiterate. I'm Scottish, of course. We're probably not the best, not great fans of poetry, if you like. But it's an interesting beer, this one, and I'm glad that I got to try it. And it is cool to try Chinook on its own because, like I say, it's a hop that's in so many beers, but you just it's not one that you will often come across on your own, or on its own. Sorry. In terms of the mouthfeel, then I would say mid-bodied beer. Carbonation is very, very smooth. Yeah, the beer leans towards the oily side of things, but at the same time it has a good bit of that smoothness to it. Good little bit of hoppy bitterness. It's not going to blow your head off in terms of IBUs, right enough. The malt base has a nice bit of sweetness and also some kind of grainy characters as well, and you've got that dark sort of grapefruity note to the beer as well. But overall, interesting enough beer, but as I say, I don't think Chinook can quite carry the beer on its own, if that makes sense. But yeah, an interesting beer. I'm glad that I got to try it, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this one. I think the Unlike Stars though does outdo this one a little bit, but that's just me. So yeah, let's leave it at that one then. So this one was the Planets Don't Twinkle, a single hop Chinook IPA at 7.2% from Verdant Brewing Company down in Falmouth in Cornwall. An interesting beer. As I say, it is cool to try Chinook on its own, but I think the beer just needs a little bit more than Chinook to kind of make it stand out, if you like. But that said, it's a very well done beer. You wouldn't expect anything less from Verdant, of course, but we'll see how this one kind of gets on. I think there are better beers from Verdant Brewing. But yeah, let's leave it at that. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Verdant Brewing Company as well. You will see more reviews from me from Verdant in the fairly near future. Until the next time, check out my social media, like I said. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys later. This was the Planets Don't Twinkle, a single Chinook hopped IPA at 7.2% from Verdant Brewing down in Falmouth and Cornwall. Until the next time, Slanger just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål.